I think the biggest issue is they're doing things that they probably shouldn't be focused on in this very season that they're in.
Business is about solving problems. It's really that simple.
The person that wins and the person that nails their marketing is the person that knows their audience more deeply and intimately than anybody else. They know how they're going to serve and they know who they're going to serve in the unique ways that only they can do it.
So we sent out a survey to our email list. And if you're not part of our email list, I highly, highly recommend that you join, because that's where we send our best stuff to, stuff that doesn't make it to the podcast or social media. And we asked you guys to send in your most challenging business problem, frustration, or challenge. And you came back to us with such amazing responses. And so we're going to be releasing this 3-part series together, Chris and I, tackling some of those challenges that you're sharing with us and giving you clarity and answers and strategies that you can implement right now to grow your business and enjoy the process, so that you're not feeling completely overwhelmed 24/7 trying to figure out how you're going to be juggling maybe a job and raising kiddos and maybe having to do spouse duties, right? Like being in a relationship, or maybe you're a student. There's so much that goes on when we're trying to build a business, especially if you're doing it on the side. And so that's what we want to talk about today. All right, Chris. So I don't know about you, but I remember being in those startup days. It was crazy. Working a full-time job, corporate America, lots of pressure, working 60 hours a week, and then also building my business on the side with a couple of clients, trying to figure out how to market and build an email list. And it was just a lot. It was a lot. Can you talk a little bit more about how you relate to that as well, building your first startup?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of discovery. I always say this, but we didn't go to school for this. Like, I've went to a very prestigious university, and I can tell you, like, less than 2% of it I've actually used growing a business. And so there's we think that we're going to come into starting our own business and be able to apply all the things that we've learned, and we quickly find out that that's not entirely the case. And so unfortunately, what ends up happening is we find ourselves kind of just grasping at straws in a lot of cases. And this will be very relieving for the audience today. Most of the things that we see people doing, I think the biggest issue is they're doing things that they probably shouldn't be focused on in this very season that they're in.
Exactly.
And so we can get into what those things should look like, what you should be doing. But I think if I went back and looked at it, it was like 100% 80-20 principle, and it was just finding that 20% of things that we needed to focus on. And then what you realize is that how little is actually required to hit scale, to hit 6 figures and beyond. Once you figure out what actually works, it's kind of like you have a foundation and you're building upon that, like Lego blocks, right? It's discerning what are those core things to focus on first. How do you get early traction? And then kind of the chaos that ensues, trying to figure out what those things need to be, is kind of where we see, and what I experienced, and Kim can speak to this, where I was just trying a bunch of stuff, right? And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's distracting, and sometimes we're not actually clamping down on what's going to work, proven strategies, leaning into what people have done. And we're going to talk about all those things. But most of the time it's guessing, not testing.
Yeah. And I love that you bring up guessing, not testing, because I feel like most of the time we go into business with this like field of dreams mentality, right? Like just get on Instagram and start creating some content,
Right.
and like people will come. Just like post a ton of content on YouTube, and like you'll figure out the business part later. Or it's like, hey, all you got to do is just like quit your job and start creating a bunch of content, and eventually the business idea will come to you. And this is like real advice that people are giving to some of our coaching clients that we have now together with our new program, TBL coaching, which is amazing. And it's going incredible, really. And I just hear this from our clients just being like, hey, this is the advice that I got from a business coach. This is the advice that I got from an influencer. And it's like, guys, what? Like, no, you don't just build it and hope that people will come. That is hope marketing. That is trying to build business on a crazy like idea that you haven't validated, that you haven't tested, that you haven't actually put through the ringer. And I feel like so many people get frustrated when their business doesn't take off after 6 months, after a year, after 2 years, after 5 years, because they don't have the foundation. And so I love that we're kind of going in that direction and talking about that today, because you have to have a plan. I think that's the first point. You don't just go for it without having an idea of who your market is. What are the people that you're trying to serve? If we like strip down everything that is entrepreneurship and really just take it one step at a time, and in its most basic iteration, in its most foundational aspect, business is about solving problems. It's really that simple. What is a problem in the market right now that you really need to solve, that you can solve, that you want to solve? And then just have conversations with people. Understand what are their main challenges, what are their main pain points. Get inside their head, step into the conversation that they're already having. And so often we see people just starting lifestyle brands or starting a product company, and often investing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of their hard-earned dollars without validating their idea. And so what do you think about having a plan? What does that look like? How do we actually go into it with a strategy, not just hoping that things will work out?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. You talked about making sure you lean into your audience. I'll steal one from you. You always say clarity doesn't strike, it unfolds. And I say this, our first business together, I think the main challenge was that there were very few, it was limited marketing exposure. There wasn't, social media was not what it is today in terms of, people dancing on Instagram and TikTok and doing all the things and algorithm hacks. Like, guys, we're talking, you could barely advertise in the sidebar on Facebook. That was
Right.
like the extent
That
that
was
you
the
could
thing.
advertise in terms of paid advertising. It was when Kim started, it was like people thought she was just playing on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's, career paths, and, there's degrees, and there's actual corporate positions for social media marketing and so on and so forth. Back then, this was kind of the wild, wild west, right?
It was.
And I often say this, but I think we were at a huge advantage in a lot of ways. I think there was so much less noise. And so imagine a world in which you did not have social media. Now I'm going to get back to that, because social media is important and it can expedite. It's a catalyst in this process of figuring this out,
Absolutely.
right? But what do? Kim was with me. We went out with our flip phones, literally our flip phones, and where we live, downtown Athens. I went to the University of Georgia. That's where we started the first business when I was a student there. And we interviewed people on the sidewalk outside of the bars in downtown Athens. I mean, hundreds of people we talked to,
Mm-hmm.
because we were starting a moving company and we were focused on college kids, right? During those transitional summer months. So what were we asking them? What do you do when you move over the summer? Do you move yourself? Do you hire movers? If you hire movers, what are those defining things you're looking for? Or is it price? Is it like, and we found out a lot from those conversations. And then what do? We just took that and then started amplifying that message. So when we went around and talked to apartment communities, we talked to lease office managers and said, here's what we're doing. Here's a flyer. Let people know that we're available if they're looking for movers. And we use the words that we got from those interviews. They were crazy pixelated watching those videos back. Like, it was funny from a flip phone watching those videos, because it just wasn't what the technology wasn't there. But I often say this, and a lot of people find this hard to believe. Kim had to twist my arm, Kim, and you can vouch for this. Kim had to literally twist my arm to post on social media. Like, I just didn't want
True.
to do it, right? But I also think that there's a large degree, we've gone too far the other way now. We're
Mm-hmm.
spending all of our time on social media. And in fact, I was just, side anecdote here, but I was just following a doctor friend of mine. He posted that neuroscientists are saying that we have such a dopamine overflow from just all of the various inputs we're putting into our brains. He said, your brain is like a cacti, it's like a cactus. And we've put our cacti in the middle of the rainforest with all the various inputs. And so I think quieting that noise, having one-on-one conversations in the real world, not trying to jump to, I've never started a business before, to, oh my God, I have to go viral and get 500,000 followers and all this crazy stuff. No. You need to get a customer, a
Mm.
single customer. You need to figure out how to get a second customer.
Mm-hmm.
What do those people say about your product or service? And before that, if they said no, why'd they say no? What were they looking for that you weren't providing? Because what you can do is those first initial customers, that's your beta. That's Arthur Blank 101. Arthur Blank stood outside of Home Depot, the first few Home Depots, and every person that came out, he asked them, what was their experience like? What would they change? What did they like? What did they dislike? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? And he used that information to go scale out what is now a massive global entity that is Home Depot that we know today, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it started there. So there's too many people. I always say this. Too many people are trying to skip the steps. You can do
Mm,
the steps faster, but you can't skip the steps altogether. So we
yeah.
got to slow it down and focus on, here's the deal. We're going to talk about later on. Kim has some really good things we can talk about, which is, what does that need to look like? What does that plan need to look like? What does that transition look like going from job into starting your own business? And that's how you do it. You start with one. You learn as much as you can about their life experience, the challenges that they've had, like Kim said. What was unique about your service or your offering that was different from other people they've seen? Or was it different? And how can you be different in relation to other things that are going on? What's going on in the marketplace? How can I position myself? All those things are going to be vital, vital, vital factoids that you take away from these experiences that allow you to eventually scale on the internet once you've got that really, really dialed in. And I'm telling you, that scale can happen a lot faster than you think. The person that wins and the person that nails their marketing is the person that knows their audience more deeply and intimately than anybody else. They know how they're going to serve, and they know who they're going to serve in the unique ways that only they can do it.
Hey, so if you're wondering what's the next step, or you want to work with me and my team, I highly recommend checking out these 3 awesome resources. Number 1, you're going to want to download our Success Path, which is going to show you exactly what stage of online business you're in. Spoiler alert, there's 6 of them, and what to be working on and not working on for each stage so that you can get to your goals faster and with more clarity. Number 2, you're going to want to come and listen to the Business Lounge podcast, where we dive even deeper every single week into advanced business and marketing strategies that you won't hear about here on the channel. And of course, number 3, you're going to want to join us inside the Business Lounge membership, where me and my business partner, Chris, we coach and train online entrepreneurs on how to leverage proven and practical business and marketing strategies to level up your business, attract more buyers, and actually create a business that you absolutely love. You're not going to want to miss it. We have over 30 training programs, an entire success path. What you're getting right now for free is just a preview. And we go live every single month to teach you on a new topic, answer your questions, and coach you one-on-one. Plus, we're about to release something incredible, depending on whether or not you are already a part of the membership, or when you're watching this video, we might have already released it. If so, it's going to be linked in the description box below, but it's pretty amazing. It's only for members for now. All right, I love you, and I hope to see you inside one of those amazing resources. Until next time, un beso. See you soon.